The books on this list may not be the worst, but they damn sure were disappointing. So let's get ready to talk about them. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Nakia. Welcome to my channel. So this year, I decided not to do a worst books of 2023 video because I actually didn't have many. I did not push through a ton of books, so I actually do even have some DNFs on this list because I had to include them. And also I read a good chunk of these, so I felt like I have an opinion. But I did not push myself to read books I didn't enjoy this year. Let's give it up for that. So what I did want to talk about though are the most disappointing books for me this year. I'm including books that I had high hopes for, either because it was from an author that I've read from before and have previously loved, or it was one of my most anticipated books of this year that just really let me down and I did not get what I thought I was going to get. So that's what we're dealing with. And of course, everyone says this with their videos, or at least most of us do, but just these are my opinions. As you know, my taste is not the same as yours. So if you like these books, that is great. And hey, you may hear me talk about them and decide you want to give them a try based on what I say. That is all lovely. Reading is subjective, and I love that we all have different opinions, and you can discuss it in the comments. But without further ado, let's get into this list. Now, this is in no particular order, but I will say the books that I saved for last just left a bitter, not great taste in my mouth. But this one, I would say I will actually probably re-listen to the audiobook. So, I mean, I don't despise it, but I was definitely disappointed. So, kicking off the list, we have book 2 in a duology, whereas book 1 I loved. And I'm speaking of none other than Antimatter Blues by Edward Ashton. Now, this was so disappointing for me because Mickey 7 was one of my best books of 2022, so I was really looking forward to Antimatter Blues. Now, of course, because this is a sequel, I can't say too much, but in book 2, we continue to follow the character Mickey Barnes, who is a clone and an expendable, which means he is created for the sole purpose of doing dangerous and sometimes suicidal missions, because if he doesn't make it, they just create another clone and keep it moving. Now, in book 1, there was a mystery because they thought Mickey 7 died on a mission, but he did not. And they had gone ahead and created his clone, Mickey 8. And so when Mickey 7 came back, these two had to try to keep it a secret, because if they got found out, they would both be destroyed, because having 2 clones is not allowed. And so I also always do these in tandem with the audiobook. I love the audiobook narrator. And as I said, I loved the mystery that we got in Mickey 7 part 1. I love the humor in it. And so I was looking for all of that in this one, and that's not what we got. This one took so long to get interesting for me. It did not pick up for me until around page 100, which is just not how it was for me with Mickey 7. They did introduce a new character that I really enjoyed, and especially through the audiobook. If you've listened to the audiobook, I'm sure you know which character I'm talking about. And thank goodness for that new character, because that made me perk up a bit and get a little more into this book. But it was just lacking the humor and the mystery that I got in Mickey 7. I also didn't care for the ending. So yeah, this one was very disappointing for me. I think I ended up giving it like 2.5 stars. So, let's move on to the next one. I did not get to mention, but every single book on this list was part of my most anticipated books of 2023 list for this year, my videos. Let's hope I do better next year. But anyway, next up, we have one that, as I said, was one of my most anticipated of this year. It had such a good premise, locked room mystery, out at sea, on a ship. Sound familiar? I'm speaking of The Last One by Will Dean. As I said, I could not wait to get to this book because I was like, the premise, I don't know where we're going with this. I have to find out. But what we were supposed to get was a young lady named Kaz who is on a luxury cruise liner with her boo. They enjoy their first night, and when she wakes up the next morning, her man is missing, as well as everyone on the ship. There is no one left on the ship. That had me. I was like, what is going to happen in this book? Spoiler alert, a whole lot of nothing. I was so bored. It just took too long for things to get going. This book was too long, in my opinion. This book was 438 pages. It did not need to be. There were just excessive amounts of descriptions about the ship, the mechanics, the engineering. I don't care about ships. If I want to read books about ships, I'll look up nonfiction books. That's not what I wanted. I was like, where is the locked room aspect? Where is that? I know it comes in. I know what the plot twist of this book is, but it took too long to get there. Fortunately, I did not hang in there. I DNF'd this at chapter 18, page 84. I gave it a good try. I almost got 100 pages in. 84 pages I wasted. that I could have spent on another book. I said in 2024, we DNFing faster. I used to do it before. I was slacking this year, but we getting back on it because I'm missing out on other books. Got time. So like I said, when I found out the twist, I did think it was a good one, but it just took too long to get there, and I did not like any of the characters in the meantime. So yes, this was so disappointing for me. I hope someone writes another one of these kind of books, but better. Let's move on. 2 books on this list fall into the same category where they were one genre, but there was also comedy. And I realized for these 2 genres, I don't really like that, or they just weren't done well with these books. So starting off with this next one, I actually have it here. I got it from my library in time for this video. The other ones didn't come in time. But anyway, we have Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. This is one I really didn't know anything going in. All I knew was that we had a main character named Ernest Cunningham, and like it says in the title, and it even just says pretty much the same thing on the back of the book, everyone in his family has killed someone, including himself. He's also killed someone, I assume. And in this book, he is going on a ski trip / family reunion, and I guess there were going to be some murders there. I don't know. I didn't even find out what happened in this book because I did not care. This book relies heavily on humor, and the humor in this book just did not work for me. I think when I looked up the author, he was a stand-up comic or something. Anyway, like I said, didn't work for me. I did not like how the author would break the fourth wall constantly. The main character in this book would be like, oh, I'm gonna do this on page 30, or so-and-so is gonna have a bad accident in chapter 30. Like, don't do that. You can say like a couple pages ahead of time, but don't tell me something that's gonna happen like towards the end of the book, because then that just ruins it for me. I don't like that. For those of you who do, this is for you. I didn't like it. I was just annoyed with this book. I couldn't connect to anything. The characters, the setting, the pacing, I already said the humor. I just couldn't connect to anything. So I didn't get too far with this one. I DNF'd it, as I should have, at chapter 3. So like I said, I didn't get too far. I don't even know what page that is because, yeah, it's already ready for me. I got to page 27. So like I said, I DNF'd quicker because I already knew this wasn't for me. Let's move on to the next one. Now this next one, like the first one, really hurts my heart because, like the first one, it is a book by an author that I have previously loved. This author writes sci-fi thrillers, and I have loved all of his sci-fi thrillers until this one. Wah, wah, wah. And I'm speaking of The Marriage Act by John Mars. If I was not reading this for the Midnight Society book club discussion that I was a part of, I would have DNF'd this book. I struggled through it. This is another one that I felt was too damn long. This book was almost 500 pages. I think it should have been split into 2 books because it was just too much packed into this one book. Too much for me, too much. Like I said, so disappointing because I loved The Passengers by John Mars. That was one of my best books of one of these years. I'll put it here on the screen. I also loved The One. I recommend that one all the time. This one just didn't do it for me. In this book, it says, what if marriage was the law? Dare you disobey? And a right-wing government agency decides that it has the cure for society's ills with the Sanctity of Marriage Act, which is supposed to encourage marriage as the norm and punish those who don't want to get married. Now, I thought this was an interesting premise. Like, it's not as intriguing to me as The Passenger or The One, but I'm interested. And we follow 4 couples who find out what happens when the government is monitoring everything you do, which again ties into things we're experiencing in this day and age. So I thought that would be interesting, but the way it was handled wasn't my thing. For the first time me reading a John Mars book, I didn't like or care about any of the characters. I did end up liking one, and I wasn't happy with what happened to that character. I'll just say that. I felt like the Marriage Act system that he put into this book was just too complicated. And as I said, too much was trying to fit into this one book, this 500-page long book. Too long. Let's split it up. Simplify it a little bit. This one also dragged for me. The pacing did not pick up for me till around chapter 53. Too long. Also in this one, John Mars did something that he has not done in other sci-fi thrillers, techno thrillers, whatever you want to call them. He put too many real world issues in this book. Took me out of it. I don't want to hear about things that happened in 2020. That's all I need to say. That was not what I wanted in this book. Because in previous books, besides the mention of certain locations, I think that's all you get that tells you where we are or whatever. I don't remember mentions of political issues, social issues, that kind of stuff. A lot of that was in this one. And as I said, I didn't like it. You know, stuff about race, politics, all of that. And it was very clear what side John Mars is on. That's fine. but I was not looking for that in this book. I just wanted, you know, something that is not part of today. That's what I wanted. So like I said, I was so frustrated with this book. The ending was better for me, but I was like, I suffered through it to get to that part. So anyway, I don't know. I hope his next one is better, but I am now gonna be looking at him with a side eye because I'm like, I ain't signed up for no politics and race and all of that. So we'll see what his next one is about. Let's move on to the last one. Last but not least, the only horror on this list. So disappointing. This book I saved for October spooky season, even though the word September is in the title. So you know I'm talking about The September House by Carissa Orlando. As I said, I was so looking forward to this book. I did not read it in September because I wanted to wait for spooky season to curl up with my Halloween decorations around and everything because I thought we were getting a haunted house mystery book. But we were missing the haunted and the mystery. Now, what I knew going in was that we were following a woman named Margaret who is determined to stay in a house that she knows is haunted. And it said that every September, the walls drip blood and the ghosts in the house come out and wreak havoc. So I was like, how is she staying in this house? What is going on? It's gotta be creepy and spooky. It wasn't. Also, we knew going in that Margaret's husband, Hal, fled from the house because he could not deal with all the goings-ons. And so one day their adult daughter, Catherine, shows up because she wants to know what happened to my father, what is going on here. Now, I wish I had known going in that this book was going to be campy. This is the other book I was talking about that had humor in it that just did not work for me. This is not what I wanted. I wanted a creepy haunted house book, not a comedy. Don't want that with my horror. I don't mind characters saying funny things in horror books. One of my favorite horror books is 12 Nights of Rotterhouse, and there's plenty of comedy in that. But again, it was conversational, which is what I like. This was comedy from the author's perspective of what she thought was funny or the way she wanted to tell the story in a funny way, and that's not what I wanted. The main character, Margaret, was not really scared of the ghost. That's how she was staying there. She even had one ghost that was like cooking and cleaning for her. I'm like, is this the Addams Family or the Munsters? Like, what are we getting here? That is not what I wanted. None of the ghosts were described in a scary way. There was nothing creepy about them. I think there was one that was kept in a closet or something that seemed like that one was a little bit creepy. Also the backstory of that ghost. But other than that, not really. There was a little boy. I don't find kids scary, even in ghost form. So that really didn't do it for me. And then I hung in there because I was waiting to see what was going to happen when her daughter Catherine got there, because the whole thing was she didn't want her daughter to know the house was haunted. So I was like, I gotta find out. I was skimming ahead and I got to when Catherine got there and they were just chit-chatting and reminiscing about the past and talking too much. I was like, I'm done here. We're done. So like the last one, I almost gave this one 100 pages. I DNF'd this at chapter 8, page 94. Oh, once again, time I wasted. Those two books alone could have been another book I finished. But anyway, as I said, once the daughter got there and nothing else happened, I was done. I don't even know how this book ends. Didn't care. That's how much I was irritated. And I love the cover of this book, wherever I'm putting it. I love the cover of this book, so I was so disappointed. So disappointed. This was probably my most disappointing of the year, besides the ones by authors I love. But by new to me author, one of my most anticipated of the year, and I don't get excited about many horror books. I do love haunted house books. This let me down. Let me down. So there you have it, my beautiful people, my most disappointing books of 2023. I can't wait to see what's going to make this list next year. If I will have a worst books video or disappointing. Again, it just depends on how the year goes. I just didn't have a lot of books that I felt were the worst this year. So that's why I was like, well, we'll do disappointing. I got tons of those. But anyway, feel free to let me know in the comments, what were one of your most disappointing books of the year? Was it any of these books that I talked about? Did you have the same issues with any of these books that I talked about? Or was there another one that just irritated you to no end? Because when I think about the September house, it just irritates me because anyway, we've already discussed it. And as always, I will have all these books listed below in case you want to check them out. Again, I could have said things that made you say, hey, that's what I like in a book. They just didn't work for me. So feel free to check them out all you like. And also ways you can support my channel will be linked below as well. Oh, don't let me forget. If you want to let me know that you made it this far in the video and or show me some love, go ahead and leave me some kind of fire emoji because I'm not going to literally burn these books, but I'll metaphysically, but we're going to metaphorically burn them. So yeah, candle, fire, whatever you like. We are done with these books for this year and looking forward to new books in 2024. So I think that wraps it up for this video and I hope I wasn't too negative, but I had to get these things off my chest. But anyway, that is it. So until next time, snuggle up in your hideaway with a good book I'm not going to talk mess about these. If they're good to you, that's good. Unplug as much as possible. Be kind to all kind. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.